cash stuffing is everywhere again. If you've spent any time on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or Instagram, you've seen the videos. Neat stacks of cash, labeled envelopes, satisfying clicks as money gets sorted into categories like groceries, eating out, fuel, and fun. The message is simple and appealing. This system looks disciplined, it looks intentional, and most importantly, it looks like it works. But the real question isn't whether cash stuffing looks effective. The question is whether it actually works in 2026, in a world dominated by digital payments, subscriptions, and online spending. This video is not here to hype cash stuffing or tear it down. It's here to evaluate it honestly. What it does well, where it breaks down, who it's actually for, and whether it deserves a place in a modern financial system. Everything you're about to hear is grounded in behavioral finance research, consumer spending data, and practical budgeting realities. No vibes, no guru talk, just facts. Cash stuffing is essentially a modern rebrand of the envelope budgeting system. The core idea is simple. You withdraw physical cash, divide it into envelopes or binders labeled by spending category, and once an envelope is empty, you stop spending in that category. There's no flexibility, no credit, and no borrowing from the future. The system forces you to live within predefined limits using physical money. This isn't new. The envelope system has been around for decades, long before apps or contactless payments. What's new is the presentation. Social media turned it into content. The visual satisfaction, the sense of control, and the emotional relief of seeing where your money goes made it explode in popularity, especially during and after the COVID years when inflation rose, household budgets tightened, and people became more anxious about money. To understand whether cash stuffing works, we need to separate financial math from human behavior. On paper, cash stuffing doesn't optimize returns, increase income, or grow wealth. What it does is change how people behave with money. That distinction is critical. Behavioral finance research has consistently shown that people spend more when using cards than when using cash. This is not opinion. Studies published in journals like the Journal of Consumer Research and research conducted by MIT and the University of Chicago have found that spending with credit or debit cards reduces what researchers call the pain of paying. When money leaves your account digitally, it feels abstract. When you hand over physical cash, it feels real. That friction matters. One frequently cited study by Drazen Prelek and Duncan Symester found that people were willing to pay nearly twice as much for the same item when using credit cards instead of cash. Other research from the Federal Reserve has shown that card users spend more per transaction and per month than cash users, even when controlling for income. The conclusion is consistent. Cash slows spending because it makes the cost emotionally visible. This is the strongest argument in favor of cash stuffing. It works as a behavioral brake. If you struggle with impulse spending, emotional purchases, or losing track of where your money goes, cash forces awareness. You cannot accidentally overspend an envelope. You cannot swipe past your limit. When the money is gone, it's gone. For certain people, this is powerful. Cash stuffing works best for beginners who have never successfully budgeted before. It works for people living paycheck to paycheck who need strict boundaries. It works for people who repeatedly fail with apps because apps feel too forgiving. It also works well for specific categories like groceries, dining out, entertainment, and discretionary spending, where impulse and habit play a large role. In these contexts, cash stuffing can produce immediate results. People often report spending less within weeks, not because they learned advanced financial strategy, but because they finally felt their spending in real time. That feeling matters. However, effectiveness does not equal completeness. And this is where most online content about cash stuffing falls apart. Cash stuffing does not exist in a vacuum. In 2026, most financial life is digital. Rent, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, online shopping, transport, healthcare, investing, and emergency expenses rarely accept cash. Entire categories of spending bypass envelopes entirely. Streaming services don't care how full your grocery envelope is. Automatic renewals don't stop because your binder is empty. Emergencies don't wait for your next cash withdrawal. There are also real financial trade-offs. Cash sitting in envelopes earns nothing. It does not earn interest. It does not compound. It does not build credit history. It does not provide fraud protection. It does not offer cashback, rewards, or purchase insurance. In an era where even basic high-interest savings accounts can earn several percent annually, holding large amounts of idle cash has an opportunity cost. Research from institutions like Vanguard and Morningstar consistently shows that long-term wealth is built through disciplined investing, not through spending control alone. Cash stuffing can reduce leakage, but it does not create growth. It is defensive, not offensive. There are also practical and security concerns. Carrying cash increases the risk of loss or theft. Cash transactions offer no dispute resolution. If something goes wrong, the money is simply gone. Digital systems, while imperfect, provide records, analytics, and protections that cash cannot. So does cash stuffing work? The honest answer is yes, but only within a narrow scope. Cash stuffing works as a behavioral tool. It does not work as a complete financial system. It can help you stop overspending, but it cannot build wealth on its own. Treating it as a universal solution is a mistake. The more useful question is not whether cash stuffing works, but who it works for and at what stage. For someone early in their financial journey, especially someone overwhelmed by money, cash stuffing can be an effective reset. It can create awareness, discipline, and confidence. It can teach limits. It can slow spending enough to create breathing room. In that sense, it has real value. But for someone aiming to build long-term financial stability or wealth, cash stuffing must evolve. Most financially literate people eventually move toward hybrid systems. Behavioral controls for problem areas combined with digital automation for savings, investing, and bills. This hybrid approach is supported by both academic research and practical financial planning. Behavioral economists like Richard Thaler have long argued that systems should work with human psychology, not against it. That means using friction where it helps and automation where consistency matters. A modern, realistic setup might look like this: cash or strict limits for discretionary spending categories where impulses dominate. Digital accounts for fixed bills and subscriptions. Automated transfers into savings and investments that happen before spending decisions are made. Credit cards used responsibly for protection and rewards, paid off in full each month. This structure acknowledges reality without sacrificing control. One of the biggest mistakes creators make when discussing cash stuffing is moralizing it. Framing it as good or bad misses the point. Tools are not moral, they are situational. A hammer is useful until you try to fix everything with it. Another common mistake is confusing discipline with strategy. Discipline helps you follow a plan. Strategy determines whether the plan leads anywhere. Cash stuffing can improve discipline, but it is not a strategy for financial growth. Without income progression, savings rates, and investment plans, discipline alone stalls. In 2026, the financial environment is more complex than ever. Inflation, digital payments, buy now, pay later services, and algorithmic spending nudges all compete for attention. In that environment, simple systems are appealing for a reason. They offer relief. But relief is not the same as progress. If you are considering cash stuffing, the most honest framework is this: use it as training wheels. Let it teach awareness and boundaries. Use it to fix leaks, but don't confuse it with the bicycle. Eventually, if you want to move faster and farther, you need systems that scale. The research backs this up. Behavioral finance studies show that awareness reduces overspending. Investment research shows that automation and long-term consistency outperform manual control. Personal finance surveys from organizations like the CFP Board and Pew Research Center consistently show that people who automate savings and investing accumulate more wealth over time than those who rely solely on willpower. Cash stuffing is willpower with structure. Automation is discipline without friction. So does cash stuffing work in 2026? Yes, for the right person, at the right time, for the right purpose. It is effective for control, not for growth. Useful as a tool, not sufficient as a system. If you understand that distinction, you can use it intelligently. If you ignore it, you risk mistaking movement for progress. The smartest approach is not choosing sides. It's choosing what works where.